Winter coming on, so Scotty, what do we need to do with our ride-ons?
Well, we need to sort of get them ready, I suppose, for starting to think about spring, which will come around before we sort of know it pretty quickly again. So it's just a matter of just getting them serviced and just making sure we're ready to go, basically.
There must be a list that we do before we put them in the shed and forget about them, like engine.
Yep, there is. So just important things, you always want to check your oil before you put it away anyway, just to make sure it's topped up and ready to go when you do pull it out for that one winter mow.
How often do we change the oil?
Every 50 hours roughly. Comes down to some people do it more often, some people actually leave it to more like 100 hours, but we suggest every 50, or at least once a year, just to keep it nice and fresh.
Filters?
Filters we try and do every oil change as well. Some people the same, some people do it every second oil change, but I suggest you do it every, because it was the price of a $25, $30 filter. It's a couple of grand's worth of motor sitting on there, so you definitely want to look after it.
And how do the batteries last over the winter?
That's our biggest thing we probably have go wrong in the winter, is batteries. What we suggest you do if it does sit in the winter, just sitting there, give it a bit of a charge before you start using it in the spring, or keep it topped up over the winter, even if you go out and start it.
I was going to suggest a trickle charger.
Yeah, just keep them charged up, because batteries, they can be quite expensive for a ride-on lawnmower, and there's nothing more frustrating when you go out and go to start it and it won't start, or you're basically mowing your lawn and then you stop it and go to restart and it won't start. So,
okay, let's go underneath. Obviously there's a bit of wear and tear and a whole lot of muck and watery grass that's stuck on there. What do we do with that?
Yeah, so this time of year, your best thing to really try and do is clean out your cutter deck. You don't want that thing sitting in your garage over the winter with wet grass up underneath the cutter deck, because obviously it's steel, so it's going to rust, and even on top as well. So underneath is the hard one. You've really got to try and probably either lift it up a little bit or get underneath it and just actually scrape it out, because the grass will be built up there, especially after this sort of autumn. You do get, it just sticks everywhere basically.
Yeah, it does.
As far as on top goes, you can take your covers off, which are usually quite easy to take off, and just blow it down with a bit of air, or you could wash it. But if you are going to wash it, just make sure the machine's not been used for about an hour, so all the bearings and everything's cold. Otherwise, all the water will just run straight to your hot bearings, and you'll have new bearings for spring as such. So.
Okay, now do we need to worry about sharpening things so that it's all ready for the spring?
Yeah, for spring you definitely want to have it all ready to go. Obviously that's when we have most of the lawn growing, so you want it ready to go. So June, July is usually a good time to do all that maintenance side of it, get it serviced, get it sharpened. So when you hit sort of September, end of August, you're ready to go.
Belts,
yeah, it's a wearing problem on ride-ons. Basically, anything that you can get a stick into or anywhere is going to cause a problem with the belt. So your best thing to do is you can actually visually check your belts, make sure they look all right. A lot of us we do in a service anyway, but there's no harm in you having a bit of a look. And if you see any frays or any bits broken out of it, it means your belt's going to break. And there's nothing worse than being halfway through your lawn and it breaks on a Sunday.
And there's a southerly coming through.
Yeah, and you've got a wedding. So definitely as far as that sort of thing, just visual check over your belts and stuff's a good way to go as well.
How long do they last for? How long would you expect them to last for?
It's a really hard thing to say. It's a matter of some people get years out of them, other people get months out of them. So it depends how hard you are on your machine. If you're a guy that sort of just full revs and just putts along, doesn't take too much off at the time, you'll get ages out of them. But if you're a guy that sort of puts it down low and just absolutely canes it, then you'll burn out a belt pretty quick.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Do we worry about things like brakes, and was that engine braking mainly?
No, it's basically you have brakes, but you don't really use them. Most of the machines these days are hydrostatic, which basically as soon as you let your foot off your pedal, it actually stops yourself anyway.
Yeah.
So you don't really need to worry about the brake side of it. Fuel's another one you can sort of think about. Usually you mow a couple of times in the winter anyway, so it won't usually go off. But yeah, if you are having sluggish starting issues, then it could be down to fuel sitting in your tank for too long.
Okay, and once again, fuel filters and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you basically replace them usually in a service, or if you're just finding it hard to start, it's a good time to replace a fuel filter. You can get additives for your fuel tanks, so if you're worried about it going off over the winter or you've had an issue before, you can get stuff like Stable and stuff, which is actually an additive you can put into your tank to keep your fuel fresher. We don't really use it anymore ourselves because majority of fuel is lasting a lot longer than it used to, but you can get them if you need them.
Do you need to top it right to the top so you don't get condensation and water? Or is that a fallacy?
No, I suppose it's one of those things, if your shed's probably a bit average, you might want to do that. But if you've got a pretty good shed like most of them sit in these days, you don't really need to worry about it.
And if somebody wants to bring one in for a full service and the whole thing, what sort of budget? range do they need?
Realistically, it depends how old the machine is, but realistically, you're going to have to spend anywhere between $250 to $500 maybe on just a basic sort of service with a set of blades maybe. It can skyrocket from there pretty quickly, but most shops will ring you and tell you if it needs a bit of extra work done on it before they continue it, so you're not sort of laboured with a $1,000 bill and thinking you're going to spend $200.
But $500 spent now is going to save you $5,000 later.
Definitely. Like I say, the engine in these things these days are twin cylinder, majority of them are, and they're $2,500 to replace. So, you know, a bit of service and work's actually really good for them.